Hello everyone and welcome. Today in this video we're going to be showing you how to change the belts on an Everett 16-inch abrasive cutoff saw. There's a few tools you're going to need. You're going to need a ratchet, an inch-pound torque wrench, a set of wrenches, a screwdriver, a hammer, Allen wrenches, and a straight edge. The first part of this is that you want to lower the saw down so that you're in a more level position, because we are going to be loosening the motor bolts and you don't want that to slide down the slope of the rocker arm. And then once you lower the saw down, you're going to want to go and follow your organization's lockout tagout procedures and shut the power off to the saw so that nothing can start while we're doing this tutorial. And so the first thing is there's going to be 4 bolts to take off to remove the belt guard. Two on the top, 2 on the bottom. The next step is going to be to loosen the motor bolts. And you're going to need the wrench and one of the Allen keys. So there's going to be 2 bolts on the back that you're going to want to loosen. You don't need to take them all the way out. We just need to loosen them so that we can slide this motor back and forth on this. Then there's going to be 2 more bolts on the front. And then on 10-inch and 16-inch models, you're going to have a tensioning screw on the front of the motor that you're going to need to loosen. And with the motor bolts still in their slots, you should now be able to just slide this motor up, which will detension the belts. And you're just going to remove all 4 belts. And then you're going to take your new belts, which you can order online from everettindustries.com, and just one by one work them onto the pulleys. And then once they're on, you can just kind of pull this motor back and get it into a kind of a pre-tight position. And then we'll kind of work back to this tensioning bolt and start doing these steps in reverse. So once you get this motor pulled back as far as you can, the belts are going to want to twist the motor towards the front pulley. And so we're going to start with dialing this tension bolt back in and get that pushed back up against the block on the motor. And we're going to take our wrench and we're going to put a little bit of tension into this screw and start to push this motor back. And as we do that, it's going to continue to stay kinked towards that front pulley, like I said. But that's okay for now. And so once we get where the belts are just starting to tighten up, you want to do just a couple more little cranks and then leave that there. So once we're done pre-tensioning, we're going to come back and we're going to tighten this rear left bolt, because we want to pivot the motor around this bolt. And so we're going to lock this one down and then go back to our tensioning screw and start turning the motor. And so now, once that bolt is tightened on the back left, we're going to start to pivot this motor with the tensioning screw so that we straighten the belts out and apply tension. And so once you've got the tension on the belts and everything, you're gonna tighten the other motor bolts. And then we come back to the front and tighten our two other motor bolts. And then once all your tensioning is done, you're just going to want to lock down this jam nut on the tensioning screw so that nothing moves. So once you get this all tensioned, you just want to turn these shafts a little bit and make sure that the belts don't want to walk back and forth or jump out of the channels. And as long as they're turning well and everything's good, you can move on to the next thing. So once we've tightened down the motor bolts and locked down our tensioning screw, we need to check that the belt tension is within spec. It's going to vary by saw, but you need to measure the distance between this. Here it's 23 inches, and at 23 inches, according to the belt manufacturer, we need to deflect this belt by just under ½ inch and use 5 pounds of force to do that. And so when I check here and I push this down, I can look and see that once I hit 5 pounds, there's about ½ inch of belt exposed under the other belt. So now I know that this is properly tensioned. So now once we're done checking tension, we're going to reinstall the belt guard just the same way we took it off. You want to just slide it on. You're going to want to insert all of them. Get them threaded in before you tighten them all down to make sure that you're clear of anything else. So if your saw has a 20 horsepower motor or larger, you're going to have a tensioning system that looks like this. It's a little different from the smaller motors. And you actually have these 2 screws, and you're going to manipulate these nuts to drive this motor backwards and forwards and adjust the alignment with the arbor pulley up front. So on this style of tensioner, we're going to use these 4 nuts to move the motor forwards and backwards on these screws. But first, we're going to have to loosen the motor plate bolts on this one. You're not going to touch these motor bolts on this style of saw. So now that the motor bolts are loose but still in their slots, we're going to unscrew the nuts on the back of the tensioner. We're going to use these middle 2 to slide this motor forward. You're going to want to just work back and forth. Keep it as straight as possible. You're going to be loosening the belt as you go. So once you've loosened this belt enough, you can just slide it off. And then take your new belt and work it on there. You're Making sure to get it over all the mounting points for the belt guard. Now once it's on there, we can start to tighten that motor up and slide it back and tension the belt. And so now I'm going to use the opposite nuts. Make sure to loosen the other side. Give yourself space. And just start to work it back in reverse now. You're going to want to go back and forth once again so that you keep it straight. So now we're getting close to tension, so now we're going to have to look at our deflection on that belt and adjust until we reach our spec. Okay. So this is a 32-inch span, and I need to move this belt 1/64 of an inch per inch over here. So 32/64, so half an inch. And I need to use 28 pounds of force to do that. So with my spring gauge, I will push in the middle of the belt until I move it that half inch, and I'll be right at 28 pounds. And so this is a properly tensioned belt. So now that I have that tensioned, all I need to do is lock down these 4 nuts so that this motor will not move anymore. So I'm just going to put tension on all of these. Make sure that's all tight. And then what I'll do is I'll go on the bottom and tighten up my motor plate bolts to lock that down as well. All right, so that concludes our video on how to change the belts on an Everett cutoff saw. And as a reminder, you can get all of our parts, wheels, and saws on our website. And if there's any other maintenance videos that you need to see, you can go to our YouTube channel or our website to find those. So thank you for watching.